Are you in? Okay, yeah, chat them over. Hey everybody, we're just gonna wait 1 minute. We had a scheduled live stream, but for some reason I wasn't able to connect. We tried it with a phone, with our camera system, everything, it wouldn't connect. I think it was a YouTube thing, but I started one without it and it started going here, so. No sound for me. Eric, can you hear me now? Make sure your volume's up. I see a bunch of people say they have audio now, so we're good, maybe. But Amy is in the other group telling them to come over here because they're waiting for us. So sorry about that. If it wasn't for technical difficulties, we wouldn't have any difficulties that were technical. So it's a good thing we have some. So give us 1 sec here. How's the lighting? Do you guys need it to be brighter? Because we use our sunlights, but oddly enough, we have a cloud today here in Arizona, so it's actually darker than normal in here. But Eric still says no sound. Okay, we got sound. It sounds like we got sound. All right. Just tell them to go to our page and they'll go over. But then you can bail and check it.
I think it's because they're not looking at
The chat.
There's still 39 people.
Oh, bummer. Bummer. We tried to do it. It was, it's funny how this technology always bites you. All those people waiting. All right. So, somebody commented, did our router melt? That could be a possibility. I think we had 36 days over 110, and most of them were over 115. And then we had 2 days of like 105. And now we're back in the 110 plus. So pretty hot in the shop. We have swamp cooled air in the shop, and boy, it just gets humid and muggy. You just instantly feel like you're sweating. So shop time is a premium right now, that's for sure. All right. Bump up the audio a little bit. Let me see if I can do that. All right. We'll give that a try right there. Let me know if that's any better on the audio. Sounds pretty good, Amy says. Okay. Oh, you got to close that. Too much? Did I bump it up too much?
No, I can turn mine down. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Amy, you just want to keep that closed or it activates the other mic, just so you know. All right. Does the picture look okay, or do I need lights? Am I okay? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Sorry about the snafu. I hope we get a few of those people from the other that were waiting on the other one to come on over. If you missed it and you're watching this later, sorry about that. We'll definitely be checking our equipment, but I don't think it was us. I think it was a YouTube thing. Something about that scheduled program, it just wouldn't let us connect to it for some reason. So today I'm going to do a CA finish demo, and if you have any questions throughout this, please feel free to type them out. Amy will read them to me and we'll answer your questions right away. I'll show you what I'm going to use here first and then we'll get started. Of course I'm going to have safety glasses, but for supplies what I'm going to be using is flexible CA glue. This is BSI InstaFlex. That's what I prefer for Flex CA. Along with the BSI aerosol accelerator. I like the aerosol because it's a finer mist and it gets a more even spray in my opinion than the spritzers do. They tend to have bigger drops and it just kind of can corrode because it's so much at once. So the aerosol to me is a little easier. I'm going to be using Abernet sandpaper and actually some other sandpaper, some 600 and 800 wet dry paper. And then I'm going to use some Zona paper. Now, that's it for the main supplies of what we're actually going to do with the CA finish. You will need, of course, your blank turned, some paper towels, but that's an easy one. Now, why would we do a CA finish? I'm going to slide these on here and switch cameras. Let's see here. We'll zoom in just a bit for y'all. Okay, so this is a finished blank, a CA finished blank. Sorry, that's a little wobbly since I touched it. This is not one. You can do a CA finish on just about anything you want. Most of the time you're going to do it on wood. I don't do it on resins or acrylics because you just don't need to. It's kind of silly. You're putting plastic on plastic. Whereas if you have wood, it can fill your grain, it can make it smoother. And in this case, like where we have segments or this Celtic knot, I did a demo last week showing how to make these. The CA finish will seal it all up. It'll give it a little more strength and it'll give it a flat, smooth coat. So then you won't have any imperfections or bumps or anything. And not to mention, it just gives it a nice shine. So CA finish is great for woods. I do it on resin when I do a hybrid blank. So if it's a wood resin combo, a lot of times you'll get that line where they intersect, and sometimes the wood will swell or shrink a little after you've turned it because of it being wood. And the CA can make it nice and level and flat. So CA is great for that. If you want to put it on a resin blank, go ahead, but I just don't see the need. It doesn't make it any shinier because you can shine up resin perfectly with Zona paper and whatever, so it's just not necessary. Now, some woods you don't want to put CA finish on, and if you know any, shout them out in the chat because I'm sure there's more I don't know, but one is olive wood. Olive wood is where olive oil comes from, I believe, so it's very oily and it will look good the first day, and then after that it'll start to cloud. Sometimes it'll even crack. And that's just because it's repelling oil or gas of some sort into your CA finish. I also don't use it on cocobolo as much as I'd love to because it's oily. I don't use it on ironwood, and I don't use it on ebony. And it's for all those reasons, is those are really oily, dense woods, and they will repel it and it'll crack and look poor. Now you can use, and I do highly recommend CA on micarta blanks. Whenever I do a micarta, we sell Ken Frisbee's micarta blanks. They're the best blanks I've found for micarta, and it looks awesome on micarta because it gives it a smooth finish. Now at the same time, you may not want a smooth finish. You may want to feel the texture of the micarta, so it's up to you. I typically do CA on request, or if the blank really needs it. Like if it'll really improve it or really improve the pen, I will do CA. Otherwise, I actually like the feel of wood better, so I don't use it if I don't have to. That being said, if you look at my display case, there's a lot of CA because sometimes it just looks better. So, any other woods come up that I didn't know about? Anybody mention anything? Nope, okay. All right, well, let's get started. So, I have this blank. It's a wood blank. It's I believe it's maple with the segmenting material. And I'm going to load it up here. I'm using these non-stick washer bushings. And the reason I'm using those is because if you put your bushings on here, your standard pen bushings, you'll essentially glue the bushings to the blank. So your glue is going to come off the blank and just coat right over the bushings where they start. And you're going to end up with a lip around the end. And if you don't handle that just right, it's going to crack or it's going to shatter. It's going to make your blank look terrible after you put all this work into it. So using these non-stick bushings, you can really eliminate that and you can kind of fine tune it. Now, if you're wondering about any of these supplies I'm mentioning, at the front of Turner's Warehouse on the homepage, Carrie put all this stuff that I'm talking about and I'm using on there. So after this, if you have questions, you can go look at that and find it no problem. Okay, so I've got my bushings on here. I've got my tailstock locked. I want to tighten this up just barely snug. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on this. If you do, you can deform these bushings pretty easily, and you just don't need a lot of pressure. So just kind of snug them up there, and then that's good. Lock my tailstock. All right, now this blank is ready to go. I've sanded it to, I think I sanded this one to 320. You could go higher or you could stop a little lower. You could probably stop at 220 or you could go as high as 400 or 600, but you just don't really need to because of the CA. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take this paper towel, and I use paper towels. Some people use other things, bags or blue shop towels or whatever. But I like to tear the paper towel into these little rectangle size pieces. Looks like I got maybe 5 out of that paper towel. Put it in my pocket since it's air blowing in here with the swamp cooler. And I'm going to get out my CAs. Now, I'll show one forward and then I'll go to the overhead here. But all I'm going to do is fold this up, and I'm going to grab my thin. Now, the thin is really thin, so you want to make sure that your fingers are behind the glue, but not right behind, because you will glue your fingers to it. So I'm going to start the lathe. I'm going to put a line of CA on here, and I'm going to just go across my blank. And you can see it went across the blank. I got a little dirty on here. That's from the wood and dust. Even though I cleaned it and blew it off, it still had a little bit of dust in there. So I don't want to use that again. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to put a line of CA, and I'm going to go across. Now, one thing you want to make sure you're doing with this is, most people, when they have trouble with CA that I see, is they're wiping it on and they're literally wiping it off. So you don't want your finger to be a squeegee. You want it to kind of be pressing on it, but so lightly that the glue will just kind of float across it. So if I push across and I'm pushing hard, I'm essentially just squeegeeing all that glue to the end, and we don't want that. So I've used 2 pieces. They're hard. I could probably use the middle here. Do a line. And I'm just going to rub it in there. Now, it's starting to stick to my finger, but not quite, so I'm close. Now, after I've done a couple of coats of thin, I'll spray it with the accelerator. And all you need is just a little spritz. So it doesn't have to be a lot. Grab my other paper towel. And you're going to go through a few of these, no big deal. But now I'm going to switch from my thin to my medium. And the reason I'm doing that is the thin will soak into the wood, which is really good because it'll kind of build a base for us. So the thin will soak in, and now the medium's going to start to build up. So if this was the wood, it's soaked down. Now we're going to start to build on top of it. So the medium, you're going to do the same process. And you don't want to put too much on here. Less is more. Just a little line, and you can see this one doesn't soak in near as much. And I start kind of at an angle, and I'm bringing it across. So by doing that motion of this and coming across, I'm getting glue all the way across it. If I just started on one side and swiped, I would definitely not get glue all the way across evenly. So what I was doing here, I'm just kind of tucking my paper towel in the end. So if there's any wet glue in there, I can get it out. Now between each one of the medium, I'm going to spray it. Just a little spritz. Rotate my towel here to a new spot. Excuse me. And I'm going to come across, and if you watch here, you can hopefully see that glue. And I'm just going to kind of flatten it out. Now keep in mind, we're building up a finish here. We're not just putting a coat on and that's it, because that wouldn't be enough. So we're actually layering this CA glue, which is essentially plastic. We're just layering it on top of each other. So we want a few layers, to say the least. Usually 4, 5, 6 is enough. I hear a lot of times in the store or online, people say, yeah, I put my 27 coats of CA on it. And I'm just like, 27? That's a lot of CA, man. Very patient. But honestly, if they were putting 27 coats on correctly, it would be 1/2 inch thick or 1/4 inch thick. So you got to put it on to where it's on there, but it's not squeegeeing it off or slopping it off the end. So I'm just going to keep applying levels. And you can see at the end there, I kind of make a little side-to-side pass. And I just want to, once I've got it, I just want to kind of come across. Now if I stop this, you can see it looks shinier. Let's see if this angle is zoomed in enough. Nope. There we go. So you can see I've got the shine. I'm going to give it a spritz. But I don't have it layered up enough yet, because I still need to sand and polish it. So Even though it looks shiny, I still have to do a little more. And I wasn't counting how many that was, maybe 3. Last week somebody caught me when I put A in both cups of the resin, so I'm counting on you guys to keep track of my mistakes here if I mess up. So I'm going to put it on, start on one end, and then rotate my glue into the blank. And I can just tab it. Spray in the middle. Do another one. So I got my line. All right, and just be careful. The CA does cure fast in paper towels for some reason, so it can burn you. If it gets on your finger, it can burn you. Also, if you've got glue on your finger and then you accelerate and it hits your finger, you're going to know because it's going to accelerate on your finger. So just make sure you're doing that real carefully. All right, let's do one more. We'll do 2 more lines on this paper towel, and then we're going to polish this pup. So there we go. Little spray. One more. And before I spray, I'm going to tab the end here. And I'll spray it. And that's it. Now, honestly, 4, 5, 6 layers usually enough. If for some reason you need more, do it. But you might need less. I don't know. Let me look here. So I just want to make sure this isn't at all sticky or tacky. Generally at the end, I'll let this spin while I'm getting everything else ready. I just like the motion in the air. Any questions so far, Amy? Any great comments?
Dan says, dude, that is more than a spritz.
That's a spritz for me, so. I mean, sometimes it's less of a spritz depending on how accurate I am. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm putting a towel down. I'm going to put water on my lathe. Normally I don't put a towel down, but everybody gives me a hard time because my lathe is rusty and then we have to rehab it, but it's a tool and it works. So.
No, people are just talking about how they glue themselves to their paper towel.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, so if you're putting on your glue and it sticks, your paper towel sticks, it's going to wrap around there. And you're essentially going to need to rip it off and then resand and kind of start over because it's going to happen. Usually it happens on camera, so I got through it. I will say the BSI seems to be less tacky like that, and I haven't had it happen near as much, excuse me, with the BSI. But it will happen, so don't worry about that.
Eric says the bags that come with the pen kits are perfect for putting on one finger.
Yeah, a lot of people take their pen kit bags and put them on their finger and use it for the glue. That's fine. Just be careful you don't have that glue burn through the bag onto your finger because then you've got plastic finger, which isn't great. But all right, so I'm going to sand this. I'm going to use this. This is some 600 wet dry, and we use this a lot. So a lot of my tutorials on rings and pens and things, you'll hear me say 600, 800. Now, one thing you want to look for is when you're done with your CA finish, done applying it, not sanding it, you should look at it, and it should almost look, I always say it kind of looks like a little bit of an orange peel rind. Like it's kind of dimply and wavy, but not a lot. It shouldn't be huge, but to me, that's correct. That means I've spread it around and it's kind of even and it looks the whole way across that way. So when I'm going to hit it with this 600 or 800, all I'm trying to do is flatten it. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to keep it wet. I do everything wet. And I'm just going across. You can see the white on my paper there. That's the CA glue. Kind of looks the same as if you had resin that you were sanding. And what I'm going to do here, so it may look like I'm really pushing on this, but I'm not. All I'm doing is holding it firm and flat because I don't want to create any divots. It is super easy to sand through CA finish. So a lot of times people will do all this and then they'll sand it off and go, hey, why isn't it shiny? And it's because they've sanded it off. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but there's some slight little shiny lines and some dull lines. And what that is the shiny stuff is the low that's below my CA finish high spots. And the dull is where I've sanded. So I just want to sand it down to where it's flat. And you can do this by hand or running at a really low speed. My lathe is set a little high, so I'm going to do it by hand. But I just want to sand that down. And as soon as I get this flat, as soon as I get it flat, I'm going to stop. I don't want to keep putting on any sanding once it's dry or once it's at that spot. So if you can see it, it looks dull all the way across, and that's what we're going for. What's the question?
All right, the first question is if there's a white coating, maybe due to the accelerator. They're
Yes.
saying that they have to sand it off and start over, but they're wondering if they're spraying the accelerator too close.
So the question is if they have a white crust, I'm assuming. Yeah, coating or crust. Is that from spraying it too close? It can be. It can be too close, but it can also be, like I was saying, the large droplets, because if a big drop hits it, it's going to like really hit it hard with accelerator, and it'll create crust and fuzz. I'm sure you've all done it where you spritz something and it goes instantly and it's just too much. That, or it could be certain brands of accelerator. I used to use a brand years ago. Trying to remember the name. We used to carry it actually, but we stopped because it just foamed up too much and crusted. Dang it, what was the name of that stuff? Anyway, it could be the brand, and what it is it's the chemicals that they use for their accelerator are just harsher, I guess. But I can tell you with BSI and Mercury, which are two brands we carry, and now we have Starbond. Starbond is great as well. I haven't had anything crust on Starbond, although I haven't used it as long as the other two. But without a doubt, to me, BSI is like the Cadillac of glue, so that's what I've been using almost exclusively lately.
That was the next question. Is there anything special about BSI?
No, BSI, it's real even quality, so if you get some and you like it, you're going to get the exact same. Sometimes other glue manufacturers, it kind of varies from batch to batch, I think. And BSI, I think they've been around for so long, they just have it down. I've never had one leaky bottle from BSI. I've never had one that went bad. It's just insane how good it is. So that's why I use it. I can tell you this, like we've always used other brands as well. And Kurt, that works with me in the shop, one day he just out of the blue said, "Hey, I'm so glad we switched to BSI." And I was like, "Why is that?" And he goes, "It's just so even and everything works the same every time." So take it for what you will, but that's what we like here. All right.
600 you're using, just big box store wet and dry sandpaper?
Yep, that was just 600. I tend to try to get the automotive wet dry because if you get it from like Harbor Freight, and I'm not necessarily putting Harbor Freight down, but I've bought sandpaper there. The sandpaper's terrible. Like it's like black and it comes off on your stuff. But this I got, we carry this now, but you can get it like automotive paint suppliers or just get a good brand and it usually is fine. So yeah, I just did 600. You could do 800, but I don't really need to because my Zona, the first grid is like 800 or 1,000, so it's going to work out just fine. So now I'm going to do the Zona. And what the Zona is it's the polish pad. So this is instead of using like micro mesh, you could also use like magic juice if you don't want to use a polish pad. But Zona is my favorite. I feel like I'm good at it, so I use it a lot. But there's 6 different levels. You can see the different colors. And you just follow them in order, just like micro mesh. Now it comes in a big 8.5 by 11 sheet. This is folded in half. And you just cut off a little square, so however much you want to use. I'll use this for 5 or 6 pens, and then I'll switch it out to a new piece. So it's pretty simple. Just get it wet, hold it on, and the first grit, although it's polishing, it will remove some material. So you don't want to be super heavy-handed or very long with it. So you want to keep it moving, keep it looking good. And you can see some of the white maybe on there. But then you just rotate to the next grit. We got another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Viviana says she feels the CA glue over to be very strong, and she's read about odorless CA. What do you think about it? Is it a better option?
Yes, good question. So the question was about CA odor. I will tell you that part of the reason I don't do CA for everything, one, I like the feel of wood, but a huge factor is CA, I hate the smell. It makes my eyes water and sniffle. You got to have moving air, so make sure your ventilation is really good. They do make odorless CA. I can tell you two things. The odorless CA is great. It's awesome glue and it's odorless, but it's expensive. But it's worth it if it bugs you. However, something like that stuff I was just using, could you smell it? There's like a pleasant fragrance in it. Like they put something in it now, and it doesn't smell near as bad as it used to. Amy's laughing because I guess she didn't think it smells good. But compared to what CA used to smell like, it smells awesome. So odorless from any brand is probably a great idea for you, especially if it bothers you a lot. But always wear your glasses and keep a fan. I used to put a fan right by the lathe to blow across when I was doing CA finish a lot, and that was just to keep it out of my, like, I didn't want the fumes to just sit there and linger. Excellent choice.
What speed is your lathe?
So right now I'm running too fast. I'm on the third belt of this lathe because we were turning some bigger stuff, and the smallest or the lowest I can go is 1200. I'd like to be around 700, so I'm moving a little quicker than I like to, but I didn't change the belt, so that's my bad. 700 to 900 for me is like the perfect sanding and CA finish speed. So I like 700 to 900, whether I'm sanding on the lower grits or the higher grits. It seems to work without overheating and without being too slow. So I'm just working my way through these grits, and I'm just putting finger pressure on them. Especially these higher grits, I can work them a hair longer without worrying about doing too much damage. Now, it's not a bad idea to stop these, just like sandpaper, and kind of go laterally.
Do you ever move from the nylon bushings back to the metal bushings after CA is applied while you're sanding for a more centered sanding?
The question was, do I ever go back to the regular bushings after the CA is applied for sanding? Sanding or sanding and polishing?
Sorry, say that again.
Is it for sanding or sanding and polishing?
For polishing.
Oh, for polishing. So the answer is no. So once you turn with your bushings, don't use them for anything else. And the person asked for centeredness, which would be the case, but it's actually not as important when you're sanding because you're not moving so much material. But you don't want those bushings on your finish in any form or step, because even if you hit the bushing with these polish pads, you're going to create steel dust, metal dust, and it's going to embed into your project. So even if you put CA on it and it's sealed up, so to speak, it's going to embed that, and you're going to get dark haze or dark dots on your finished pen. Probably the biggest thing people do when they're first starting is they'll sand with their bushings on, and then the ends of their pen are always dark and dingy, and they can't figure it out. And it's literally because they're sanding metal dust. They're creating metal dust and just pushing it right into their wood. So with wood especially, if you ever see that on someone, that's what they're doing, and you could help them out. But once you've turned the pen with the bushings, don't sand, don't do anything else with the bushings. Just get them off of there. All right. Good questions today, everyone. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to try to get it in front of a camera. So these little bushings pop right out. Let's see here. There we go. So I don't think it's wet anymore. Hopefully you guys can see that there's a nice shimmer and shine to that. And I do like to go back and kind of look over it with some magnifiers to make sure I didn't miss anything or I don't have any huge scratches I couldn't notice. As I've gotten older, my eyes aren't as good as they were. And I just had a birthday, so they're a year worse now. But you got to look at this stuff really closely and make sure that it's good, because there's nothing worse than doing an awesome finish like this and somebody walks up and goes, "Oh, what about that scratch?" And you're just like, "What?" Because some people have better eyes. But there is a nice, shiny, smooth finish. So, I mean, if you didn't know it had the segment in there, you can't feel it, which is really kind of cool. This is great for laser engraving. If you're lasering and then filling it in or not filling it in, you can CA over it, and it's a nice, smooth finish. But I'll have Amy post a couple pictures because she might be able to post some pictures to show the shine here.
Do you ever wipe between paper grades, or is that just extra work?
What was that?
Do you ever wipe between paper grades, or is that just extra work?
Wipe?
Yeah, like between the zonas.
Like back and forth?
I think maybe dry it off.
Oh, dry it off? No. Between zona, you don't really need to do anything but just switch. You will see me sometimes I'll dip my fingers in and like drip water on it, because if there is any dust, that'll knock it down. The main reason I do everything wet, whether it be sanding or finishing, is, well, first and foremost, I think it makes it shinier. There's some people that like to sand dry, and I just think it dulls it somehow. And that could just be me, but that's what I think, so I do it. But secondly, the most important reason is sanding, especially wet sanding, keeps dust down. I'm not breathing it. I don't have to wear a respirator. There's no dust. So wet sanding to me is the only way to go for that reason. But I do believe it makes it shinier. Now, this is super shiny, but you could, if you wanted to, hit it up with some polish of some sort to make it even shinier. Honestly, though, if you do zona right, you don't need anything else. It's already going to be as shiny as it needs to be, and it looks like a mirror finish. So hope that was helpful. Good questions, everybody. Thanks for hanging in when we had some technical difficulties. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already, because we're going to keep these coming, and we've got some cool stuff lined up in the future, so you guys will hear about that. Any other questions?
Yeah, somebody wants to see the blanks from last week before you're finished. Are they on that table?
What blanks were they?
There was a color drop maybe, and a pink and black.
Oh yeah, go look right there. I don't know if the pink and black is there, but they might be.
We're on a full 30-second delay.
Okay.
Over 30 seconds.
So Amy's going to grab the blanks from last week's live. That's a good idea. Whoever thought of that, thumbs up. But we'll show you what those look like. Last week was, boy, we've had like 3 weeks in a row of kind of technical mess ups. Oh shoot. I just dropped that white bushing into a bunch of white shavings, so I may not see them. Okay, that one wasn't from last week. Oh yeah, I didn't even cut it yet, this one. All right, so here's last week's. This was the color drop. I haven't even popped it out of the tube yet, but it looks pretty good. You can see in the middle, hopefully, it's like a cloud of multiple colors. There's white, orange, yellow, red in there. So that's going to be a cool handle. I think that'd make like a cool ice cream scoop or something, maybe a big bottle opener. And then this is that pink, so there's the bottom. This was that pink paste mixed with the black paste. I need to go cut this up. I'll do that after I'm done here and post some pictures for y'all.
We got multiple other questions.
Okay, yeah, let's have it. This is
Do you ever have a problem with glue buildup on the ends and have to square up the ends again?
yes. Great question, and I should have mentioned it, so thank you. The question was, do you ever have glue buildup on the ends? Almost always you will. The reason you kind of saw me touching the side there, I'm just clearing it out. But even this one, where there's not a lot of glue buildup, but there's just a tiny ring of glue formed, if I push this in, my pen kit is going to try to get to that tube, so it could pop the CA and crack it, and that's when you get that clouding around the end. So what I do, you can do two things. I'll either take a piece of like 600 or 800 sandpaper flat, and I'll just kind of spin this so I have really good control and I know I'm pushing it flat. Or I'll take a super sharp new razor blade and kind of rest it on the edge here and just kind of rotate it, and it'll just cut perfectly that little thin cap off. Now I'd recommend practicing that on a blank you don't care about first, but I've done it so much over the years I can kind of cut a perfect little circle and just cut that thin layer of CA, and then I'll hit it with the sandpaper and do that end. Because if you don't do something like that, you're going to crush that CA and it's going to look perfect before you assemble, but as soon as you assemble it, you're going to get that crusting and that chipping where it's going to push the finish up. And it's just a bummer because you did all this work and made such a cool thing, and then you really just want to throw it out. But that's a great question.
Have you used Glue Boost?
The question is, have I used Glue Boost? I have not. I've never had the chance to use it. I mean, I guess I could have bought some, but I have all this stuff here that we use. So I have not used Glue Boost. I've heard good things, and I've heard it's very similar to Mercury. So, and I've used Mercury a lot. So I haven't used it, but I've heard good things about it. Really, there's not a lot of CAs I wouldn't recommend. I don't like the Titebond CA for some reason. I like Titebond wood glue, but I don't like their CA. And I don't like, what is the one? It's made by TMI. I can't remember. There's another one that I don't like, and it's just because of the way it acts. But there's really not a lot of bad ones out there.
Do you always need to mix medium with thin CA, or can you work with just one of them?
Oh, good question. So the question was, do you have to use thin and medium? Absolutely not. The reason I do it is because I have them both here. The thin soaks in, and then I like the medium to build. You can just do one or the other. So if you're just doing thin, keep in mind you're going to need to do a lot of layers. So it's obviously not building up as much per layer, so you got to do more layers. Now, if you're doing medium, on that first coat, wipe it on and let it soak as much as you can before you spritz it. And it might soak in a little more than if you just spritz it right away. So if you were just going to pick one, I would get medium. If you want to get both, I like that way, but if you're going to get one, get medium. Good question. Trying to see if I can find my bushing.
Talk about, did you already tell them about Saturday and the sale on Junior George?
So this Saturday, thank you, Amy, that's a good reminder. If you're local here to Turner's Warehouse in Gilbert, we are opening back up on Saturdays starting this weekend, the first one in August. Anyone who comes in Saturday or places an order online gets a free pair of safety glasses because we're like promoting safety this month. So you can do that. And we also are having our first ever one day in August, and it's going to be our Junior George kits. I think there's 2 finishes. Look on the website. I don't remember which ones. But they're normally like $20. They're going to be $14.99 one day only. So that's going to be a great deal, and just kind of celebrate Saturday and thank everyone for awesome support. Yeah, chrome and gunmetal. Good colors. Junior George is probably one of my favorite kits. If I had to pick, it's up there in the top 3 for sure. Classy, like not overdone, very good quality. It's a Daycom kit, and at that deal, I don't think you can beat it. All right, everybody, give us a thumbs up here. Like the channel. Let us know if there's something you want us to do for a live demo. We've got a bunch planned, but we're happy to do more. And a lot of times you guys come up with better ideas than us. So let me know what you think. Thank you, Amy, for moderating. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Anything else? Stay cool out there. Just so you know, if you keep watching these live demos, we've got some cool stuff planned. I think I said that already, but maybe in September, even some road trips planned. So we're going to be looking for some of you guys and see if we can come work in your shops with you. That would be kind of fun. So we got one volunteer already. He reached out to us, and we think we might go visit him. So, all right. If you have anything, hit us up here on YouTube or at Turner's Warehouse on Facebook or Instagram. Any questions with orders, email the store. We'll see you later. Anything else? We're done.